Hi friends, I want to welcome you today to this powerful topic that is very important to mostly the examination classes, both the internal and the external examination classes. We are looking at active and passive voice. You can see active and passive voice. This is a topic in English grammar that we need to really pay attention and get all that is contained here. Now, when we talk about active voice in sentences, we should understand that a sentence can be in active or passive voice. Now, for the active voice, when do we say that a sentence is in active voice? Now, a sentence is in active voice when the subject of the sentence is performing an action. That is, when it is the doer of an action in a sentence. We therefore say that the sentence is in active voice. For example, from what we see on the board, these are sentences established in the active voice. Number one says, Paul did the work well. Paul did the work well. Now, Paul here is the subject of the sentence. And from the structural arrangement of this sentence, we notice that the Paul here, being the subject, performed an action. That's why we said he did the work. That means he did something. So he performed an action here. Therefore, the sentence is in active voice. The second one says, they. Of course, the they here is the subject. Paul is equally the subject. And they here is a pronoun, while this is a noun. Remember, the subject of a sentence normally can be a noun or a pronoun. In the example, the first example, we discover that the subject there is a noun. And in the second example, the subject is a pronoun, also performing an action. It performed an action. Actually, they stole our money. So the subject, they, which is a pronoun, performed an action. So that's why it is in this form. The next one, our teacher, being the subject of the sentence. In this case, this should be a noun phrase. Our teacher scored them high. That's the performer of the action in this sentence. A noun phrase performed an action. Here, a pronoun being the subject performed an action. Here, a noun being Paul performed an action as well. The other one is a pronoun also. It says, we listen to the news. We here is the subject of the sentence, performed an action. Actually, we can see from the structural arrangement, we discover that this person or these people here, because this is a plural pronoun representing names of people, somebody or people that are beyond a number. So we listened to the news. So that is what we are talking about as far as active voice is concerned. When we say therefore that a sentence is in active voice, it then means that the sentence or the subjects are performing action or performed actions in sentences. We come over to the passive voice. From the passive voice, when do we say that a sentence is in passive voice? We say that a sentence is in passive voice when the doer is at the receiving end. That means when the subject of a sentence is receiving an action performed in the sentence. Take for instance, in the first example here, under the active voice, we said something, Paul did the work, that is in active, but then in the passive voice, we discover that the work here has now come to the subject side. That is subjective case. We are now saying something, reporting a case, the work was done well by Paul. Now look at the Paul that was the subject here goes to the objective case under the passive voice. Number two, they stole our money, active. In the passive, our money was stolen by them. Now take note of something here. They here is the subject, but here it turns to them The reason is because it has gone to the objective aspect. This is what we call objective case of the pronoun. Here, because it was in the subjective case, that's why it took this shape. But going to the subjective case, it becomes them. So that's what we are saying. Our money was stolen by them. The next example, here we have it as our teachers called them high. But in the passive voice, it becomes they were scored high by our teacher. The same our teacher that is here goes to the objective side. The final one says, we listen to the news. That's in the active voice. But in the passive, it becomes the news was listened to by us. Now, take a look at this. We, the subject of the sentence, and in the subject case. But here it goes to the objective case, becomes us. Now, apart from these things that I have said, I also expect you to understand that in active voice, actually, when you express a sentence in the active voice, you look at the verbs did, look at this stole, and look at this scored, and look at this listened. All right? Now, from here, we notice something, that this sentence, these verbs are in the simple past tense because the expressions are all in the active voice. The verbs that are obtained under the active voice expression, they are all in the simple past tense. Did, the present tense of it is do. This is stole. The present tense form of it is steal. So the simple past tense form of it is stole. And here we see it as scored. For the present tense form of it, it is score, while the simple past tense form of it is scored. And here it is listened. This is a regular verb, of course. The present tense form of it is listen, and this is listened in the simple past tense form. Now, take note of the fact that because we are now expressing these sentences from active voice to passive, that means we are changing the expressions that we are made in the active voice to passive voice. We notice something also. The first one says, the work was done well by Paul. Now, here we have it as Paul did the work well. And here it is, the work was done well. Now, we notice that we have a verb, we have a verb here, was done. We now discover that we have two verbs existing, and the first one will be an auxiliary, while the second one will be the main verb. And the main verb will actually be in the past perfect. That is the past participle tense. And that's what we've seen here. The same thing happened here. Our money was stolen. We now see the presence of two verbs, was and stolen. The first one in the simple past, which is helping the main verb in the past participle. And then the next one, were scored. Because all these things are obtainable like this because of the fact that they are in the passive voice. So we are scored. The main verb is scored, which is a regular verb. Regular verb, yes, of course. But then this verb is in the past participle, and being the main verb, this is helping the main verb. Finally, the news was listened to by us. The same thing is also obtainable. So to say that passive voice expressions, when we establish them, we notice that there will be verbs in these forms. That is, an auxiliary verb and the main verb coming to be put in place. If you've enjoyed what you've watched, kindly subscribe to my channel and hit the red button to get notification each time we have a new video.